Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to share a couple of ways to help a player stay down and behind the ball in the start of downswing. I see a lot of amateurs struggling to stay behind the ball, often getting ahead in the early phases of downswing, leading to compensations and moving into impact. Thanks once again for joining me. If you haven't already and you're enjoying the content, please remember to hit subscribe. Today we're going to take a look at a couple of ways to help a player that gets ahead of the ball early in downswing. One of the most common faults I would say that I see with amateur players, and it makes it really hard to compress the ball and get a good delivery position when you get ahead early in the downswing, because from there typically what you'll see is an early release of the club to manage the low point. So obviously getting ahead there, really not something that you'd see a lot of good players do. It's not going to help with the club delivery in many cases, and often it goes back to how the players transitioned and how they've put force into the handle in the start of the downswing. So what I want to do today is focus on the trail arm movement, something that I find a lot of players wouldn't initially connect to getting ahead of the ball. But what I've seen with players is that when they don't have enough room at the top of backswing for the trail arm position, then when they go into the start of downswing, the force they'll put into the club will actually, one, the club will release earlier, and two, it'll almost push the head in front of the golf ball. I like to use the analogy of a cable pull a lot of times in the gym in the start of the downswing for how we'd want to pull that cable down towards the ball. And you can see as I'm going through the motion there, if I was to be pulling the cable, I'd be leveraging the ground in a certain way that would keep my head behind the ball there. So I'd be pulling that cable down towards the golf ball. And also, just to reference again the trail arm, which is the focus today, how the elbow would be extending, and in that motion where I'm pulling the cable down towards the golf ball there. Now what happens with players when they run out of room at the top of backswing for their trail arm is that they then, if you were to imagine there's a cable there and we don't have much room, they're then going to try and create that space in a way in the start of downswing that's going to push their head in front of the golf ball as the hand moves away for them. We're also not going to see the hand move down the way that we want it to. It's going to move more away from them, and that's going to encourage the club head to release. Okay, so a lot of really positive gains here from if we can get the right arm functioning the way we want it to in the start of downswing. One of the drills I've shared in the past with the club is if we were to go to the top, again with a focus on width there, and just from a focus on width standpoint, while we're on that topic, with players, I often encourage from face on, can they get to the top of backswing and have that trail elbow very much in view? As that elbow starts to get pushed behind and out of view, that's a very clear sign where they're going to start to struggle for space to get the trail arm to work the way we want it to in the start downswing. So can we first of all move to the top of backswing and keep that trail elbow very much in view, especially with an iron, because we can often very much keep the backswing shorter with irons. So can we keep the trail elbow in view? And then from there, if I was to take the trail arm and hand and put it on the club in a way that I wanted to push the club in that motion, which is the action we don't want, can we then pull with the lead side as we're pushing into the handle? And you'll see that what we're getting is that trail elbow extending as the hand moves down in a similar way to when if I was pulling a cable down in the gym. Okay, so that's number one. Can we allow, one, the elbow to be in view at the top of backswing, and then two, can we push on the club down? So you can see how long my arm is there moving into impact, and how when I do that my head just stays behind the ball. So there's not really any focus on, okay, let's just try and keep the head behind the ball. That's in some ways is very dismissive of the movement that's causing the head to move ahead of the ball. So what we can actually do here is get to the top of backswing here, pushing on the shaft there with that right hand while pulling with the left hand, and at the same time I'm almost keeping the radius between my hands and the body very much the same as I'm doing this motion here down into impact. And what I can feel there from a body standpoint when I'm here is distance between belt buckle and sternum has, from the top of backswing, has actually decreased, and my head feels as though it's staying inside my trail foot. So after a couple of repetitions of that, and then I go into my normal top of backswing position, and I just sense a similar amount of force into the club with my trail hand, and as I do my best at really just rehearsing that same motion. That helps me keep my head behind. From here, just rotate through to your finish. So that's what I would encourage players to do. Get clear on the movement and then break it down in a way that's nice and slow. So I would have players that, if we're struggling getting ahead of the ball, going through that motion to here, and then from there just chipping through nice and easy, all the way to, say, similar to a 3/4 finish that I was doing that just then. But this kind of movement here, if you're working away from an old movement pattern, you're probably going to want to stay at this pace for quite some time. And it's what I always find really interesting is that if players slow down, and once they've done 10 reps of doing this at this pace with that clarity, you often see a lot of really good positive improvement as they start to pick up the pace and move into their full swing. Now, you've always got that balance. If you're going to go out there and just do, 20, 30, 40 full swings after doing the slow reps, it's probably going to start returning back to the old movement pattern of the head moving ahead of the ball. So it's that balance of, okay, like when we practice, should we be starting off with a certain number of these, nice slow pace, just chipping through, and then just monitoring the amount of full speed reps in relation to the slower reps. So I would say for players that are really wanting to work on this, and this is something even myself, I haven't really been playing, I can often get a little bit up and ahead of it. This is something I'll do myself, nice and slow. I'll do 5 to 10 of them really slow, and then I'll start to pick up the pace. And again, from here to the top, one thing for me that stands out is the space between the belt buckle and the sternum and how it feels much closer. One, the connection of my trail foot to the ground, and two, my right ear feels though it's inside my right big toe there, or inside my right foot, and then I'm going to move through. And after I've done 5 to 10 at a slower pace, it's actually, then I feel it translates quite nicely for me into a full swing. So hit that one pretty nice there. I always feel as though I was on much kind of lower, got much better connection with the ground, and feel as though I have much more, I'm not really sure how to describe it, feel as though I got much more pressure into the club there, being able to keep the angle much better, the compression into the ball feels better. So a couple of key pointers there. If you're getting ahead of the ball, let's just start paying a bit of attention to the trail arm. How much space is it having at the top? Is it getting pushed behind? And then how are you applying force in the start of the downswing? And this was the drill here. Really cool one there. I mean, again, when you go back to visuals of good players, this kind of angle here coming into impact is something we always would typically correlate. Few good starting points for you there. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me at ian@mellorgolf.com or email me at ian@ianmellorgolf.com.